Hey geniuses, it's 0.3 step 2. We're going to start looking at some sample essays, and I want to talk to you about the criteria first. So here are the criteria. First of all, your essay needs to be about 500 words and responds to the prompt. Second item, the thoughtful structure guides the reader through the text. The piece has an unforgettable opening, an engaging middle, and a provocative ending. The third is the essay uses language that is precise, delightful, and thoroughly original. The sentences are lyrical, poetic, and dance along like a lively script. The voice is as individual as fingerprints and holds the reader enwrapped. And then 4 is the essay is clear, focused, and compelling. It shows striking insight and takes the reader on a journey of understanding. And then the last one is just that the piece is free of errors and awkward language. Conventions are cleverly applied to bring out meaning. All right, let's dig a little bit deeper, and you can take some notes on these 5 items. The first is the essay of about 500 words responds to the prompt. What do I mean by about 500? Well, my aunt's abundant joy is 592. And questions without answers is 482 words. So about 500 is about 500. It doesn't have to be exact. I do want you to find the prompt for your particular school that you want to apply for and respond to that prompt, all right? Because I want this assignment to actually work for you. I want you to use it as you apply to colleges. If you don't know, which school in particular you want to apply to, or if you don't see that you have to write an essay, you can use the general prompt, which is just please write an essay that tells us more about you. You may want to write about people who have influenced you, situations that have shaped you, difficulties or conflicts with which you have struggled, goals and hopes you may have for the future, or something else you consider significant. So it's very general. Or you could tackle one of the Common App prompts. All right, a lot of schools ask for the Common App, and the Common App the last couple of years has been using several different prompts, and students can pick one of them. So here they are. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. 2, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? 3, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? 4, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? And finally, 7, share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So feel free to use whatever prompt you would like to use. I think, the closer it is to what you're actually going to apply for is better, all right? And then just make sure you let me know what prompt you're responding to so that I know what it is, so it makes sense. Okay. The second criterion is thoughtful structure guides the reader through the text. The piece has an unforgettable opening, an engaging middle, and a provocative ending. Structure is how writing is organized. So this is all about how you are starting, continuing, and ending, how you transition from one thing to the next, all that good stuff. Now, since we're not writing a 5-paragraph essay for the college application essay, it's going to look a lot different than your expository essays. And for that opening, you don't want one of the hooks that you learned to write in 9th grade when you first learned how to write a 5-paragraph essay, okay? Instead, you want something that is actually unforgettable. And that just means that after reading the essay, you can remember how the essay started. Here's an example from one of the essays in the sample essays. The essay is called An Answer to the Bullies. And here's how the essay begins. It begins with dialogue, a quotation. What are you, autistic? So this is a conversation that the student is recalling. The next line, I slowly turned my head glancing at the group of 6th grade boys huddled at the table beside mine. Autism? I turned the word over a couple of times, curious as to what it means. And so she starts with a piece of dialogue, and then she shows her internal thoughts as she's processing this question. So that's an unforgettable opening. Works really well. People will remember it when they read it. All right, how about an engaging middle? It means the reader never gets bored. It's always interesting. It means, and then a provocative ending, whoops, that should say ending, makes you think. It is thought-provoking. And so if you go back to that same essay that I just showed you the opening to, in answer to the bullies, she ends this essay by saying, so to answer for the boy I watched get bullied all those years ago, yes, I am autistic. It feels a little less humiliating to admit it now than it did then. And for that, I'll claim a small victory. So she actually comes back to that very first line and answers it. And that's really thought-provoking, this idea that, you can take a bad memory and change it so that it's a little bit better by answering it now. And she says it's a victory, even though this is a somewhat traumatic memory that she's had. All right, the essay uses language that is precise, delightful, and thoroughly original. The sentences are lyrical, poetic, and dance along like a lively script. The voice is as individual as fingerprints and holds readers enwrapped. That's a lot, but it's basically saying how good are the sentences? How interesting are they? Without even thinking about what they're about, how well crafted are those sentences, okay? Here's something to look for. It's easy to read. Someone else might say that it's easy to read, and they might even say that it's fun to read. It's actually enjoyable. They want to read more. They can read or you can hear the person behind the words. That's the voice piece, right? So your voice as an individual comes through like it feels like it's being spoken to us. Here's an example, and this one is kind of long, but I do want to include it in the video. It's from the essay Naive Enough to Learn. And so here's the beginning of it. This is their opening. I was 16 years old when I saved my first life. What a great opening. I was working at our city's local pool, the Crystal Cove, and I was watching the diving well. I'd been sitting there for 10 minutes and not a single soul had gone off the diving board. Needless to say, I was a little bored. Then my head perked up as I watched a small boy, no older than 7, jog energetically toward the diving board. Finally, something to watch. I like how this one works because it feels conversational, right? It feels informal. Finally, something to watch. This is actually a fragment. It's not a complete sentence, but it's a stylistic fragment, and I talk about that in the next lesson. But this is a variety of sentences. It's a short sentence where we have this very long one right before, so we're varying sentences. We also have some interesting use of language like my head perked up. Perked up is a nice active verb. Single soul, we have a little bit of alliteration there with the repetition of s. And so these are some creative aspects that make the language interesting in and of itself. It goes on to say the kid stepped onto the board with the utmost confidence, and I waited and watched to see what kind of trick he would do. I thought for a second whether I should ask if he could swim, but his lack of hesitation told me otherwise. Big mistake. Here's another nice short sentence that makes us feel like we're listening to someone telling this, right? My heart dropped as I watched him jump a whopping 3 inches off the board and land clumsily in the water. There we have some exaggeration, right? As I watched him urgently struggle to stay above the water, I prayed that he was only messing around, but I knew that he was going down. I fumbled for my whistle, let out one urgent blast, and jumped in after him. What a great active sentence with these 3 active verbs: fumbled, let out, one urgent blast, jumped in after him. There was no thinking involved, just pure instinct as I urgently swam to the kid. Once I had grabbed him and we'd reached the wall, the boy got out of the water. He still had the exact same look of confidence on his face, one that I now knew was actually that of a naive kid. He didn't say a word to me. He just hopped out of the pool and walked away to go swim somewhere else. So we can see these pictures, the images of what's being described, and it's just very effectively written. Okay, how about number 4? The essay is clear, focused, and compelling. It shows striking insight and takes the reader on a journey of understanding. The clear just means that the story is limited to one key event, one key setting, one key idea. And that is hard to do. That is actually, I think, the hardest thing about this essay is finding one good event to retell. Focused means there's nothing in the essay that isn't working. Everything in the essay has to be there in order for the essay to make sense. Nothing could be removed and have the essay still make sense. Compelling means you care as a reader what happens. And journey of an understanding means that the idea is interesting enough that it takes an entire essay to explain what's so interesting about it. All right, how about 5? The piece is free of errors and awkward language. Conventions are cleverly applied to bring out meaning. Well, there's no errors, and you can get some help from AI for this and this alone. You can use Grammarly, or if you want to use ChatGPT, you have to be really careful. Here's what you ask ChatGPT to do, and you have to use these words: correct errors, okay? If you ask ChatGPT to revise your essay, it's actually plagiarism because it will change your words. If you ask ChatGPT to correct errors, it will not change your words. It will just fix any errors, and you can do that. It's the same as using Grammarly. Read it out loud several times to make sure that it doesn't have any awkward language, and vary your sentence structure. Change it up. Change up your word choice. Avoid cliches, things that have already been said before. Make everything in your piece original. All right, so that is, those are the criteria. Now you're going to go ahead and read a couple sample essays. Feel free to read the 2 that I just shared with you. And, whoops, you don't have to, I'm so sorry, ignore that last slide. You're going to read 2. You have to, that's a must do to read 2 and take notes in the packet. Read a 3rd as a should do, read a 4th as an aspire to do. All right, enjoy reading these sample essays. I hope that you like them.